Breaking game-changing transfers are shaking up the college football landscape. Today, it is December 8th of 2023, and these updates, everything is happening right now. So you guys want to be tuned in, and you guys want to be here to talk about who could the Oklahoma Sooners get? Who could join the Sooners here for the 2024 season? It's going to reshape the team. It's going to reshape college football. That's what we're here to talk about. But before we do that, guys, I need you to hit the like, I need you to hit the subscribe button, and I need you to join the discussion. Again, what talent do you think the Sooners are going to be able to acquire out of the transfer portal? Drop your top names of guys that are currently in the portal, not guys that could enter the portal, guys that are currently in the transfer portal. Now, before we jump into the recruiting updates, I do want to go ahead and I want to start off with a little recruiting update. And that's going to be the 4-star cornerback, Duce Edwards. So you guys might have seen that he dropped his top 5, announcing that he will be announcing his commitment on January 12th of 2024. You saw the schools of Clemson, Louisville, Oklahoma, Tennessee, and Virginia Tech. And OU fans might be asking themselves, well, who is this kid? Because I haven't really heard a whole lot about him. And I got a chance to follow up with Duce after he made this announcement of his top 5. And I just said, hey, what's up with Oklahoma? Do they have a shot in this commitment? And he said, hey, most definitely, right? They're going to be ahead on my table. I love Jay Valai. I've been out there twice. I love it out there. And I love my recruiter. And he basically said, narrow down to these 5 schools because they all give me the same feeling. Great coaches, great schools, great communities. And I can see myself playing at each of these 5 schools. They give me a feel that I can excel on and off the field at each place. It's going to come down to my gut feeling when I decide which one. So just off the rip, it doesn't sound like he's officially made his decision. Oklahoma still has a chance to go in there and try to make an impact. However, if you're an Oklahoma fan, you know, we've talked about guys like Kobe Sellers. We've talked about Jonah Williams in that backfield. Now, Jonah Williams is a safety. But regardless, I think it's still unknown exactly who the Sooners' top targets are, maybe outside of those 2 at those positions, just because those have been the ones that we've talked about the most. We followed up with the most. But this is exciting. Oklahoma you're really seeing them end up in these top school lists for these recruits. So obviously, them making the Alamo Bowl is not hurting them on the recruiting trail like some of you guys like to think. All right, so let's go ahead and let's shift gears and let's jump into the transfer portal updates because this is what y'all are here for. This is what the video was supposed to be about. I just thought it'd be fun to throw a little recruiting nugget in there and you guys can hear some more recruiting stuff on Monday. But the first one we got to talk about is Chris Paul Jr. Man, wouldn't it be awesome to have somebody on your team, your football team named Chris Paul, right? You know, after the legendary, can we call him a legendary point guard who I think currently plays for the Warriors. But Chris Paul Jr. was a linebacker that played for the Arkansas Razorbacks. He is a sophomore, so he'll be going into his junior year. This past season, he had 74 total tackles, 30 solos, 2 sacks. In 2022, he had 62 total tackles, 38 solos, 4 sacks, 1 fumble recovery. This year, he had 1 pass breakup. So you're losing Danny Stutzman, and we've kind of identified the list of guys that could potentially take over for Danny that are currently on this team. And now you're probably going into the portal looking to take one guy that, hey, maybe he fills some gaps or he is just purely a depth piece. Well, you look at Chris Paul Jr., and this is a guy that might be able to come in and try to start for Oklahoma right away. He might try to take somebody's job. Chris Paul is a former 3-star linebacker out of Cordell, Georgia. He had schools like Nebraska. He had a couple SEC schools offer him. He only had 16 offers, and it was kind of a flip between Nebraska and Arkansas. So we'll have to keep an eye on Nebraska to see if maybe they decide that they want to go try and get a linebacker that maybe they were once in on before. Now, it wasn't during the Matt Rule era, so we'll have to see if Matt Rule still wants to get a guy like that. Okay, next up on this list. So we've talked about needs for Oklahoma. especially on the offensive side, right? You need offensive linemen, but you also need tight ends. And you had Jason Llewellyn hit the portal. Caden Helms has not been healthy, and who knows? We all want him to get healthy, but if he's not able to get healthy, yeah, you've got Devon Mitchell coming in, but you really need to get a couple more guys in that tight end room that are going to be able to compete with each other and make an impact. And the first one here that you see is Holden Stays, the 6'4", 242-pound sophomore, originally from Atlanta, Georgia, was playing at Notre Dame, recently entered the transfer portal. This season, he had 15 receptions for 176 yards, 4 touchdowns. This is somebody who, outside of Jalen Conyers, is, I think, one of the first tight ends that I've really seen maybe Oklahoma take interest in. Now, I'm curious to see what happens on the Jalen Conyers front, because remember, he was originally committed to Oklahoma, and he was at Oklahoma before he entered the transfer portal in 2021 and ended up at Arizona State. So the fact that Oklahoma is going after another tight end maybe tells me things aren't a done deal on the Conyers front. And it'd be interesting to see how many tight ends they decide to take, especially with Devon Mitchell coming in. But here you see Holden Stays. He is going to be at Oklahoma on December 15th. And this is per On3's Chad Simmons, who was the first to report this, or at least the first that I've seen to report this. So interesting here. He'll be taking visits to Tennessee and Washington. And you would imagine that as other people go along and, hey, you know what? They find out that they have a need at tight end, or maybe more people into the portal after bowl games, they're going to try to inquire about his services. Now, second to last here is we got to talk about the Clemson defensive back transfer, Andrew Makuba. And this is one that I haven't really talked about, and there's a reason why. He's a 6 foot, 195-pound junior out of Austin, Texas. Now, as you can see here, per On3's graphic, number 1 safety in the transfer portal. And he's looking not only at Oklahoma, but Texas and Oregon and USC. So I want to point this out. One, you can imagine this is probably going to be an NIL battle for Oklahoma. Second off, I think you're also seeing that originally from Austin, you would probably favor the Longhorns, who actually had crystal balls still in at the time of his commitment to Clemson. So at one point in his career, it was in his recruitment, it was down between Texas and Clemson. He's ranked 167th nationally in the 247 composite rankings in the class of 2021. I'm not betting that Oklahoma is going to land this kid, but a guy that had 42 total tackles, 28 solos, 1 fumble recovery. In 2022, had 53 total tackles, 31 solos, 1 interception. And then in 2021, had 47 total tackles, 30 solos, 1 fumble recovery, and 1 sack. Yeah, you want to go after a guy like that. And I want everybody to be careful with the idea that because Brent Venables used to be the defensive coordinator at Clemson, that any defensive guy that enters the portal from Clemson, OU's going to go after, right? OU's got a shot on. Because right now it seems like outside of Jaron Kanik, there's not really anybody that Oklahoma is going after from Clemson. And maybe that is Brent Venables setting a precedent for his assistants that might go get jobs at other places down the road to say, hey, I didn't do it to my previous head coach, and I don't want you guys to do it to me, right? Maybe he's setting a precedent, and I know a lot of you guys might say it's weak, but at the end of the day, this is what he wants to set forward going forward with his staff, and hey, you know what? I think it's okay. But last but not least, we got to talk about LT Overton, and this is one that, hey, a lot of people are interested in, because you've sat back and you've said, when is the defensive line exodus going to happen at Texas A&M? And we've seen LT Overton hit the portal. We've seen Walter Nolan hit the portal. And yes, I mean, Walter Nolan, there was a connection there between Oklahoma and Nolan last year, right? You know, you started to hear some rumblings that, hey, if Nolan hits the portal, Oklahoma would definitely be a destination that was on the board. Ultimately, he never hit. And now this year, you see destinations for Nolan of like Oregon and Alabama and places like that, which, hey, if you look at it, Oregon's actually getting a visit there. But as far as LT Overton, you can see here, This was posted yesterday. He is flying. Alabama's flying in to meet with him. He was a former 5-star recruit in 2022. He was actually the number 1 overall player in 2023. Now, he hasn't had a whole lot of production at Texas A&M, but again, with that stacked defensive line, like it was going to be hard for some of these guys, even these 5-star guys, to hit the field because there was just a lot of talent there. So you look at LT Overton, South Carolina, and Alabama are the teams to beat. I told you guys, hey, you know what? I heard that the staff was going to kick the tires around on him, but I didn't expect Oklahoma to seriously be a contender for LT Overton. Now, I might be eating those words down the road, but I don't want to give you guys false hope that, hey, Oklahoma's going to go out here and land all these 5-star defensive linemen. If Oklahoma is going to land any defensive lineman out of Texas A&M, it's going to be David Hicks. I don't think they land Nolan. I don't think they land Overton. I don't think they land Dindy if Dindy hits the portal. I think Hicks is the prize that Oklahoma goes after if there's a defensive lineman that hits the portal from A&M. Now, I told you this would be the last one, but I think it's only fair that we end on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, pretty much where I think there's quite a few needs for Oklahoma, and that's going to be with Trevor Etienne, the running back from the Florida Gators, a sophomore, 5'9", 205 pounds. He's had significant production. This year, he had 131 carries, 753 yards. He had a 5.7 average, 8 touchdowns. He was able to catch the ball out of the backfield. Right now, you're hearing about other teams like Georgia. You're hearing of teams like... Of course, people are going to throw Clemson out there because of Travis, but listen, the relationship was with Brent Venables. I know that they are kicking the tires on Trevor Etienne. Now, does Oklahoma land Trevor Etienne? I think time will tell, but I think Oklahoma has a good shot here. If they really want Trevor Etienne, I think DeMarco Murray and Brent Venables, they can go out here and they can lay the foundations to go out here and get him. The problem is if you get Trevor on campus, who does that cut out? Does it cut out a guy like Javonte Barnes? Because I think clearly at that point, your 1A and 1B is Gavin Sawchuk and Trevor. Flip-flop depending on the day. So I'm not sure if that's a road the staff wants to go down because I think they're still very confident in Javonte Barnes. But if you're an Oklahoma fan, I would not be ruling out Trevor Etienne just yet. But guys, I want to hear from you, and I want to hear what y'all's thoughts are. So hop down in the comments below, join the discussion, and tell me which top talents are you hoping join the Oklahoma Sooners. And if you have not already, go ahead and hit that like and hit that subscribe button.